Good evening and welcome to the October 28th meeting of the Livermore City Council, the Halloween edition, if you will. Call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Barrientos. Councilmember Branning.
Here.
Councilmember Kick.
Here.
Vice Mayor Carling.
Here.
Mayor Marchand.
Here. Would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States. One nation. Thank you. We just came out of closed session. I'll ask the city attorney, is there anything to report from the closed session?
Mr. Mayor, this is Jason on call, your city attorney. Yes, I'd like to report the following. Pursuant to California Government Code 54957.1 subsection A, I'm reporting that in the matter of Bunn versus Livermore, the city council voted unanimously to accept a settlement agreement and full and final release of all claims signed by the plaintiff that releases the city of Livermore in exchange for a payment in the amount of $550,000. This case involved a complaint for damages arising from an arrest in 2015. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Moving on to proclamations and presentations. We're here to confirm the advisory body appointments to the Airport Commission, Beautification Committee, and Commission for the Arts. We have Christopher Dombrowski and John Levine and Victoria Schellenberger for the Airport Commission. For the Beautification Commission, we have our committee. We've got John Stein. And for the Commission for the Arts, we're filling 5 vacancies. And I'm very proud of this. I was a founding member of the Commission for the Arts and very happy with what they continue to do in the community. We have to the regular appointment terms ending in January 2029, Lawrence Milder, Natalia Custodio, and Thomason Dewhurst. And then for the regular terms, Cynthia McCann and Tracy Son. So with that, is there a motion to appoint?
Mayor, we actually have public comment on
Oh,
this
we
one.
do have public. Okay. I was going to take the motion first and then public comment. That's okay.
David McQuiggan.
Johnny, the rapist protector Marchand, the mayor who covers up rape. I'm against the appointment of these commission members and will be making my statement by a silent protest. Thank you, Johnny, the rapist protector of Marchand, the mayor who covers up rape.
For those at home that are wondering what just happened, Dave McGuigan is a self-confessed drunk driver. And he tends to be fairly incoherent at some of these proceedings. So I apologize for that disruption. Is there anybody else who wants to speak on?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, I will take a motion to accept the appointments.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Vice Mayor Carling, seconded by Councilmember Branning. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Shall we administer the oath of office? So if you are here, please step forward. One of the names that I called previously, Christopher Dombrowski, John Levine, Victoria Schellenberger, John Stein, Lawrence Milder, Natalia Custodio, Thomas and Dewhurst, Cynthia McCann, and Tracy Son. Thank you very much. And thank you for donating your time to the City of Woodmere, the remarkable place that it is. All right, thank you very much. And again, thank you to those who have stepped up to continue to serve our community, to keep it the remarkable community that it is. On to 3.2, that's the Livermore Human Services Commission Annual Update. We have this presented by Tracy Nakamura, the chair of the commission.
Good evening, council. Excuse me, good evening, mayor, council members, staff, and members of the public. Josh is going to pull up the presentation. I'm Tracy Nakamura. I'm the chair of the Human Services Commission, and I'm here to provide our annual update. Next slide, please. As a refresher, our primary responsibilities are to act as an advisory council to the commission or to the council, and primarily, we're looking at what are the needs within our community in terms of low income and moderate income residents. What are the delivery system challenges, and how are we going to address these factors through our grants program? Challenges and opportunities. Next slide. The biggest challenge has been the unpredictability of federal budgets. This year, our CDBG allocation decreased by 6%, and the federal home funds went down by 20%. These factors are a big challenge. The biggest issue is the formula for calculating the CDBG grant for each entitlements allocation. One of the factors is the people in poverty decreased within the city, and that's because it's based on a percentage. And so we don't think that the need actually decreased. We believe that lower income people have been forced to move out of the city, and so our median income has risen, and so our percentage goes down. Our number of overcrowded housing units also decreased, and our total population decreased, and so all of these lowered our CDBG and home allocations. It's also important to point out that we can only spend 15% of our CDBG allocation on public services. This means that a lot of worthy programs that apply for our grants are competing for a relatively small pot of money. And engaging with the community will help us gauge the effectiveness of our current programs and provide the commission and staff with additional opportunities to better serve the needs of the community. Next slide, please. So this year, I think you went backwards. One more. There we go. This year, the commission heard 26 presentations from 19 agencies. We asked all of the grant applicants to present to us at our February meeting, and it gave the commissioners to ask an opportunity to ask questions and better understand the programs that we're applying for funding, and also to get to know new agencies in the area. We reviewed and scored 26 applications, and reviewing them is a monumental task. So I want to thank my colleagues on the commission for their hard work and dedication, and also the city staff who do a lot of prep work to help us through that process. I want to point out that in fiscal year 23-24, we had 21 grant applications, and then that rose to 26 in this fiscal year. We funded 13 projects through the grant process, and that will result in over 3,500 Livermore residents being served. We're also excited to host the next Joint Commission, Human Services Commission meeting next month with the cities of Pleasanton and Dublin to discuss how we can implement projects related to the Eastern Alameda County Human Services Needs Assessment. We also did some prep work to move to a 2-year grant cycle, and Amy Walker will be talking about that later this evening. So we're very excited about moving forward with that as well. Any other questions or any questions?
Just a comment, since I used to be on this commission for quite a while. I just want to really thank you for all the hard work. The grant scoring is a monumental task. It ruined basically an entire month for me. It is more than most city council packages. So I appreciate all your work. And I really appreciate what Josh has been doing with the team again, to really find creative ways of leveraging more funds, because as you said, and what I want to highlight is, of the federal funds, we can only use roughly 15% for services. So that's food, medicine, sanitation, projects like that. And so it ends up being a very small allotment for what has some of the biggest impact on people's lives. And so I appreciate you and the commission, and I appreciate Josh and the team for really looking at other ways we can really fund some of those needs, and the more help we can get.
Thank you.
I just had a question. I might be remembering incorrectly, but is this the first time they've come to present to the commission?
The human services? Oh, the agencies? In previous years, I've been on the commission for 3 years now, and in the previous 2 grant cycles, only new applicants were required to present, and the applicants that had been previous grantees would come and they would answer any technical questions. And so this was kind of a refresher year where we had everyone present from scratch.
I just think that's a good idea to do every once in a while so that everybody can hear from everyone. Seeing a human in front of you telling you something versus on paper is great. So we just keep that in the
Absolutely.
rotation as we have new commissioners coming in and out. I think that would be great. So glad to hear that they went well.
Yes. Any other questions? No. Thank you.
Thank you for the great work that you continue to do in this community. There is a tremendous amount of need, and when you look at the very small amount of funding that comes from CDBG and home, it's really remarkable the work that you do, and sorting through the applications, that is daunting because everybody needs money, they need resources, and what you are charged to do is to provide them enough to make a difference, not enough, not everything they need, but enough to make a difference. And it makes a tremendous difference in people's lives. So thank you for what you do, all you and all the members of the commission. Thank you. Okay, 3.3, Livermore was recently recognized as one of the top 10 cities in the state of California for quality of life. We're so busy here in Livermore that sometimes we don't take the time to get the recognition that we need. So this is some of the recognition. We received a Helen Putnam Award in excellence. So I will hand this off to staff and
Yes, Honorable Mayor Marchand and members of the City Council, this is your City Manager, Mariana Marasheva. We have a representative today from the League of California Cities, Sam Cagle. I think a lot of you know her, presenting 2 awards to us. So,
Yes.
Ms. Cagle, please.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council. I'm Sam Cagle. I'm your Regional Public Affairs Manager for the East Bay Division of the League of California Cities. So I'm grateful to work with the 33 cities in Alameda and Contra Costa counties. Before we begin, I wanted to take a moment to thank all of you for your engagement and advocacy, whether it's on policy committees or attending division meetings here regionally, or investing in yourselves through important educational conferences and webinars. As you go through your council journey to serve your city, your engagement is appreciated, and your staff too. Thank you for your work with the city manager's department and others. I'm pleased to be here today to celebrate the city of Livermore as the recipient of a 2024 Helen Putnam Award in the category of intergovernmental collaboration. The city of Livermore was one of 12 winners honored during Cal City's annual conference just about 10 days ago in Long Beach, in front of more than 2,000 peers from around the state. So what is the Helen Putnam Award? Established in 1982, the Helen Putnam Award for Excellence program recognizes outstanding cities that deliver the highest quality and level of service in the most effective manner possible. The award is given in 12 categories, and this year we received 184 submissions and 9 in your category. The intergovernmental collaboration category recognizes programs that demonstrate innovative but replicable examples of collaboration among cities, counties, schools, and our special districts in service to children and families. They are programs that demonstrate joint provision of public services, joint use of public facilities, using alternative methods to work through intergovernmental disputes, efforts to seek public input on cross-jurisdictional issues, and more. The City of Livermore is recognized this year for your Horizons Family Counseling, a division in the City of Livermore, in collaboration with the Livermore Valley Joint Unified School District. This program offers comprehensive mental health support services to youth and families. Operating within school sites, the Horizons program provides counseling, workshops, and support groups addressing the increased demand exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Through funding from various sources and innovative partnerships, the city and school district are co-leading the way in promoting holistic youth well-being and resilience. As I understand from your application, this program started as a volunteer program with volunteer counselors and evolved over time as the city responded to greater needs in the community, and has become a robust program helping hundreds of kids each year that you plan to continue to grow. I think we can all agree that valuable, important, and inspirational work is being done here in Livermore. Your program is a great example to share with cities around the state, and that's one of the great things about the Helen Putnam program is that you were recognized in front of 2,000 of your peers at our conference, and I'm sure that a lot of folks walked away with new ideas for their cities, including this one. So with that, congratulations on your Helen Putnam Award, and I'm happy to present you with this plaque.
Mr. Mayor, and I'm going to borrow something that typically you would say, and there's more. So the next item, we have yet another award that Ms. Cagle is going to present to the city.
Yes. So I am delighted to also be here on behalf of the Institute for Local Government's Beacon program. The Institute for Local Government, or ILG as a lot of folks refer to it as, is the nonprofit affiliate of the League of California Cities. Its Beacon program honors local governments that are committed to addressing climate change and implementing policies and programs that make California communities more sustainable. The Beacon program honors achievements in 5 spotlight categories, including energy savings, natural gas savings, community greenhouse gas emissions reductions, agency greenhouse gas emissions reductions, and sustainability best practices. Tonight, I'm here to present the City of Livermore with a platinum level Beacon Spotlight Award in the Sustainability Best Practices category. This is the highest level award in this category. This award celebrates the city's comprehensive approach to sustainability, with the city implementing more than 60 policies, programs, and activities in 10 areas of sustainability. Activities like the fleet electrification assessment, the city's 6 electric vehicles, and the solar-powered EV chargers with battery backup. This is helping the city electrify its fleet and become less reliant on fossil fuels and more resilient to climate change. Tonight, we also want to celebrate activities like the city's community stakeholder working group that includes representatives from the city council, staff, the school board, students, nonprofit organizations, the Livermore Lab, and local businesses, all who meet to collaborate on climate issues. These forward-thinking and engaging activities help ensure that the city of Livermore is being fiscally responsible and inclusive as it addresses the climate crisis that affects us all. So with that, congratulations on this award and all that it represents. I have another plaque for you.
And I would like to recognize our sustainability specialist, Tricia Ponto, who is responsible for the great efforts that are being accomplished by the city. So thank you very much.
I want to say thank you to Sam for being here. She's a great leader of the East Bay Division. If you haven't met Sam, she's been providing that leadership ever since I've been on council, and I'm sure before that. But I also want to mention that Mr. Spence and I had the pleasure of accepting both of these awards at the meeting in Long Beach. And it is a proud moment to walk up on stage in front of colleagues from all over the state to accept such an award as the Helen Putnam Award. So again, Sam, thanks for being here, and thanks to everybody in the community supporting what the city is trying to accomplish. Thanks.
And again, this is one of the great things about serving on this council is we get to work with a lot of people that do a lot of great work. And then the fun thing is that we get to take credit for it. We get to pick up the plaques. And but recognizing Tricia Ponto, our sustainability manager. Thank you for the great work and for your leadership on this program and for everybody else that supports these efforts. So thank you all very much. And thank you for making the way down there to collect the loot. Appreciate that. Okay, now we move on to a proclamation honoring the Tri-Valley Haven. This is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I believe Christine Dillman is here from, okay, so we do have a representative. We had Andleeb Ali and representing the Tri-Valley Haven Shelter. And proclamation of the City of Livermore recognizing Tri-Valley Haven, October 28th. Whereas domestic violence affects people of all genders, sexual orientations, ages, racial, ethnic, cultural, social, religious, and economic groups in the United States. In October 1987, the first Domestic Violence Awareness Month was observed to connect advocates for battered women from across the nation who are working to end violence against women and their children. And whereas, although progress has been made toward preventing and ending domestic violence and providing support to survivors and their families, important work remains to be done. Policymakers and communities must work together to support survivor-centered solutions and provide education, awareness, and understanding of domestic violence and its causes. And whereas domestic violence programs in California provide essential life-saving services for survivors, their children, and communities, while amplifying prevention programs and community-based strategies to create healthy environments and decrease the likelihood of domestic violence from occurring in the first place. And whereas Tri-Valley Haven in Livermore shelters women and children who are victims of violence and in need of a safe, confidential location, providing immediate safety, respite, and supportive services, including financial assistance. Tri-Valley Haven also advocates for change, focuses on prevention programs, and provides counseling services to empower individuals to regain their sense of self, pride, and accomplishment. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of Livermore honors Tri-Valley Haven for its efforts to create a more peaceful society, one person, one family, and one community at a time, to build a world without violence.
Christine couldn't be here. She wasn't feeling well. Good evening, respected Mayor and the council members. I stand before you today on behalf of Tri-Valley Haven, an organization dedicated to supporting survivors of domestic violence and sexual assault. I'm deeply honored to accept this proclamation recognizing October as the Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This proclamation holds profound significance for our organization as it underscores the City of Livermore's unwavering commitment to addressing the urgent issue of domestic violence in our community. Domestic violence is a silent epidemic, impacting individuals from all walks of life, regardless of their age, gender, or socioeconomic status. It affects not just the victims, but their families, friends, and their entire community. Each year, thousands of survivors turn to organizations like Tri-Valley Haven for refuge, hope, and support. At Tri-Valley Haven, we are dedicated to providing safe shelter, comprehensive counseling, and vital advocacy services to survivors. We also work tirelessly to raise awareness and educate the community about prevention and intervention. We cannot do this work alone. It takes partnerships, collaboration, and a shared commitment to break the cycle of violence. This proclamation is not just a recognition of our work, but a call to action for all of us to stand together and ensure that everyone has the right to live free from fear and abuse. We are grateful to the City of Livermore for shining a light on this issue and for being an ally in this fight. As we continue our work at Tri-Valley Haven, this acknowledgement strengthens our resolve to empower survivors, challenge harmful norms, and build a future where domestic violence is no longer tolerated. Together, we can create a safer, more compassionate community for all. Thank you once again for this important recognition, and thank you for your continued support in our mission to end domestic violence. I would like to share the crisis line number, which works 24/7 hours a day, 365 days a year. It's 800-884-8119, 925-449-5842. Thank you.
Could you say those numbers one more time, please?
I'm sorry?
Just for the home audience, could you say those numbers one more time?
Yes, it's 800-884-8119 or 925-449-5842. Thank you.
Mayor Marchand, thank you, and thank you, Livermore City Council members. We have some of the staff from the Department of Domestic Violence Services here. We are truly honored to receive this proclamation recognizing our work in supporting survivors of domestic violence, especially as we observe Domestic Violence Awareness Month. This acknowledgement is not just a reflection of our efforts, but a testament to the strength and resilience of the survivors we serve. It reminds us all of the importance of coming together as a community to support those who have endured unimaginable challenges. We share this recognition with every survivor who has found the courage to speak out, and with the advocates and partners who stand beside us in this vital work. Your commitment and support to empower us to continue providing the resources and hope that every survivor deserves. Thank you once again for this honor and for all your unwavering dedication to making our community a safer place for all. Together we can foster healing, hope, and change. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Thank you for the great work that you continue to do in our community. Councilmember Branning.
Thank you. I just wanted to, first of all, thank you so much for your work. I cannot imagine how difficult it is, and hopefully it is equally rewarding. And I'm very glad as a city that we can support you. I also want to take a moment with this proclamation to just highlight why it is so important, and comments have been made from this dais, to not take assault and domestic violence lightly, and why it is important that we don't use terminology that makes it seem like just another thing. It is flippant would be a great word. I know that it's come up in this chamber before. It has come up, I think, unnecessarily and unbased. There is no basis for it. And I think that when we use terms and when we use words, they do have power. And in this chamber, it's unfortunate that this happens, but I just wanted to take this moment to kind of highlight that from the dais, at least from all of us, we see you, we hear you, we understand, our heart goes out. I cannot thank you enough for the work you do and how meaningful it is in people's lives who've been affected by really crimes that take away everything. So thank you so much for all you do. I appreciate it.
And I applaud the work that you're doing as you expand that facility to serve even more people, increasing it 50%. And you're well on your way now to making that happen for this community. So again, thank you as you continue to grow your support for the women and children in our community. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. All right, moving on to the open forum. The city clerk will tell you how you can participate.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council's agenda provides opportunities for the public to participate in the meeting by addressing the City Council in the following ways. For non-agendized items, the public has the opportunity during open forum to address the City Council on any item of interest that is within the City Council's subject matter jurisdiction. For agendized items, the public can address the City Council on each item of business it considers when the mayor opens public comment and should be focused on that particular item. Please note, a speaker is not required to answer any questions from the City Council, and the City Council is not required to answer questions from the public. However, the mayor has the discretion to ask staff to address the speaker's comments when a council member believes it's relevant to a particular business item. When participating in tonight's meeting, one comment may be given per person per item. For consent calendar items, one comment may be given for all items on the consent calendar. If consent calendar items are pulled for discussion by the City Council, a speaker will be allowed one comment for each item pulled for discussion and a separate comment for the remaining consent calendar. To provide comment, please fill out and turn in a speaker card found at the entrance of the City Council chambers. Speakers will be announced in the order received. Once public comment opens, each participant's name will be announced and their 3 minutes will begin once at the lectern. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, do we have any speakers for the open forum?
Yes, sir, we do. The first speaker is David McWiggin, followed by Greg Scott.
Johnny, the rapist protector Marchand, the mayor who covers up rape. Some on the council have suggested that we consider how the victim feels. So I think, let's do that. We know that after she woke up the next morning and found out she had been used like a
I'm
piece
so
of meat,
sorry.
that was angry,
Can is it okay to interrupt and say that we can't talk about other people's abuse and that's just not acceptable in here?
So we're asked, this Councilmember Kick has asked for a point of order on this particular matter. Mr. McWiggin has been admonished to maintain the decorum within the council meeting. He has chosen not to a number of times. He does obviously get some kind of feedback from this in an antagonization from the city council. He has been asked to turn over anything that he may have that would show that he actually has access to actual police reports. He has not done so. Either he has that information and he's misreading it, or he doesn't and he's making it up. So I just want to put that in the context for this particular for your chambers here today. It is offensive, but it is tolerated. He is not naming names. He's not making reference to any people. He is speculating on a random basis. I think we need to tolerate this if he's going to continue to engage in it, but give it the weight that it's due.
Okay, well, I'm not going to tolerate it, so I won't be listening. You enjoy using other people's pain to just be unkind.
There have been numerous accusations that somehow I had tried to influence the investigation, that I'd somehow used whatever influence some people presume that I have to influence the courts. Does the mayor have any influence over the courts or the investigation?
So to place this in context, that's a separate conversation that Mr. McGuigan is talking about today. That goes back to an earlier conversation involving a former police officer with Lamar Police Department. And in that matter, there was a pitches motion that was brought and the city attorney's office defended it like it does all pitches motions. But to your point, Mr. Mayor, no, the mayor has no involvement in anything that comes to a prosecutorial or defense basis. That is left to the city staff, my office, and the police department to handle those matters.
So these are just all the wild imaginations of a self-confessed drunk driver.
I'll leave that as it is.
Okay, all right, carry on.
She was angry enough to make a formal complaint. I can assure you that takes a lot. Of course, she was assaulted for a second time when her complaint was deliberately covered up by Chief Young. But as luck would have it, the officer was caught in a scandal that you couldn't cover up, and the woman was given another chance to seek justice by testifying at trial. That was until she was assaulted for a third time when Johnny, the rapist protector Marchand, interfered in the trial and took her chance of seeing justice.
Excuse me, once again.
Personally, I see.
So once again, I had no interference and no point of contact during the trial. So once again, this is just a figment of his imagination and his.
You
own wild
filed a
ramblings.
motion to suppress evidence.
I had submitted nothing of the kind.
A point
It is
of order.
simply a figment of your imagination, a
And I'd
wild
like to ask-
rambling on your part.
It's in the records. And I'd like to ask what you think about what would change for me if you finally decided to hold your corrupt police department into account. I've already paid for whatever crime I might have done. There is nothing to get out of. The only thing I expect to change is possibly regain some respect for a justice system that has been completely corrupted here in Livermore. Now, I'd ask you to think about what would change if you actually held your customers accountable. Well, for one thing, it would result in a significant decrease of the instances of the Livermore police officers raping your citizenry. But for some reason, you don't want to prevent rape by the Livermore police. That's why you promoted Captain Young. You recognize a kindred spirit. The reason for the officer there is a reason the officer flourished under Captain Young's tutelage. You both believe rape should be a job benefit of the Livermore police. And yes, the chief is technically hired by the city manager, but when she wants to keep her job and she knows who she works for, so when Johnny says, I think Captain Young would make a great chief, the decision was easy. And since you've seen the photographic evidence and just laughed it off, you are both directly involved and deserving of personal accountability. And I admit, I won't be able to hold you accountable for all the crimes you've covered up, but covering up rape, yeah, that's going to stick. That's why you are going to be remembered as Johnny, the rapist protector Marchant, the mayor who covers up rape. And for the record, I think a proclamation honoring Domestic Violence Recognition Month by a man who covers up rape is wholly inappropriate.
I would just like to say that there was a study that was done over the previous 10 years when I was mayor. And that study was an independent analysis of the previous 10 years of analyses and investigations by our police department. And the conclusion of that study was that the Livermore Police Department was unbiased and fair to all the people that it dealt with. And I think that's remarkable. And I wouldn't put any other police department up against the quality of the police officers that we have. And our police officers arrest around 300 people like you every year that put our community at risk. And I'm very thankful that they step up and keep people like you off the streets because you put our community at risk. And I applaud our police officers for doing just that. And I will continue to work with them.
Can I say something?
The next speaker is Greg Scott.
Councilmember Barrientos.
Right now, I've run into a lot of policemen in our area. I am very proud of our police force. I think they should be commended. And so they do a lot of work for the community, and we're one of the safest communities in California. So I appreciate you, and I think you're the best.
Actually, Councilmember Barrientos, we are one of the 20 safest communities in the nation because of the investments, the strategic investments that we as a council and as a city have made to support public safety, including our police and fire. And we all have good reason to be very proud of that. Okay.
The next speaker is Greg Scott, followed by Trish Monroe.
Good evening. I am Greg Scott. Monday, October 28th, 2024, my mother would have been 100 years old today. She died a year and 3 days ago. Her goal was to live long enough to vote for Donald Trump and see him become president again. I do not understand her vote intent. I will never understand it. I do understand that she felt she had no alternative. In a lot of ways, she didn't. The housing crisis. Donald Trump has no reasonable or credible plan for the housing crisis. Neither does the word salad, vacuous policies, and nonsense of presidential candidate Vice President Kamala Harris. Fact, from 1989 to 2022, the top 10% of the wealth in the United States came to increase their ownership up to 60% of the wealth. The bottom 50% of wealth maintained an unchanged 6% of wealth ownership. The 50 to 90 percentiles of wealth ownership saw their wealth erode from 37% of wealth to 34% of wealth. In other words, the middle class and working class ownership of wealth is deteriorating to the benefit of the top 10% of wealth. There is no true intent to fundamentally solve affordable housing and homelessness dilemmas in Livermore. Everything is to increase land evaluations and increase rents, while nominal wages deteriorate relative to the cost of housing. There are the NIMBY, not in my backyard, class warfare, racism, gender, and economic bias cast as non-progressive versus YIMBY, yet, yes, in my backyard, co-opted by the profit-seeking developers and real estate interests. YIMBY is a neoliberal scam. Neoliberal is the mantra of the market is God. A market is controlled by rules. Who makes the rules? The wealthy, with fealty of government. It is essentially a Ponzi scheme where the relatively few wealthy gain at the expense of the many. Little or no restrictions are put on these plunderers. We are in an asset evaluation bubble. The fact of this is the Fed's ownership of over $7 trillion in assets that no one else wants to or is able to buy and is part of the program of quantitative easing. An example of this plundering is control is Blackstone. You see the Blackstone global banners on First Street. Billionaire CEO Steven Schwarzman, a Trump supporter, calls the shots while receiving $896.7 million in salary and dividends in 2023. The plundering private equity outfit Blackstone has $1 trillion in assets, owns some 350,000 units in the United States, and owns 1/3 of all the detached single-family housing units rentals in California. How do the cost burden rentals compete against this? They don't. What the Downtown Eden Housing Project Plan in Livermore will do is showcase economic segregation and economic space polarization in a Livermore gem of a location, which should be adequately sized regional comments for all. It is an expensive token. The Downtown Eden Housing Project is a ruse. The so-called nonprofit Eden Housing pays its executive director a base salary of $326,000 a year plus some $100,000 a year in benefit. The 16 or 17 top executives at Eden Housing receive more than $3 million a year, or more than 40% of the payroll. The executive director makes 8 times what the lowest Eden Housing employee makes. Is this socioeconomic justice within the Eden Housing organization, Livermore? If you do not have socioeconomic justice within the organization, how is that Eden Housing going to achieve its mission of solving the affordable housing problem, which is primarily a socioeconomic problem? What hypocrisy.
The next speaker is Trish Monroe.
And now for something completely different. Good evening, Mayor, City Council, and
The larch.
and staff. I just wanted to bring us back to where we were at the beginning of this open forum. Never can remember the name. It keeps changing. I want to remind everybody where we were with the awards that we were given, because we as a city do know how to work together governmentally. We know how to make slow progress because that's how cities work. We know how we can get together. We know that we do not have enough money to fix everything. And one of the things that made me proud when I sat behind, where you're sitting now, that made me proud was to watch how we were able to work together. No, we're not going to be able to fix economic injustice. That just, that's beyond the scope of what the city can do. But we can make slow progress. We can push for more. And that's what you all do. I'm really sorry that there is spewing of hate that happens every week. I know how hard it is to not respond. One of the biggest lessons I learned, not really actually all that good at it yet, still working. But boy, do I appreciate what you all do to make that possible. Thank you all. Those of you there, those of you there. Thank you.
That completes public comment.
Okay, I'm going to close the open forum, bring it back to consent calendar. Consent's going to be a little bit complicated tonight. We need one motion for 5.1 for the minutes because we can take a vote because Councilmember Barrientos was absent from the last meeting, is excused. We have item 5.13, which needs to be heard after 7.3. So I'll be rearranging the agenda. I do have a question on 5.11. Does anybody else wish to pull an item from the consent?
Not to pull, but I had
Just a question.
comments on 5.10 and 5.11.
Okay, quick question on 5.11. That's the Livermore Valley Wine Heritage District, which I think is quite a remarkable thing that we have. The city collects 2% of that for administrative costs. Is that sufficient for the administration that we do? We have Brandon Cardwell, our Economic Development Director.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Brandon Cardwell, Innovation Economic Development Director. Was able to confirm with our Administrative Services Director today that that amount is just sufficient to cover our costs.
Okay, and reading the report, we're doing some great things out there.
Absolutely.
And what's the current number of wineries that we have that are members of the Heritage District?
I don't have that at my fingertips. I can pull it from the report.
I
if
got
you like.
42, but I just figured I'd call it out there just to let everybody know.
There has been a bit of turnover in both directions with the wine country. I'm sure 42 is in the ballpark. I'm sure you actually have that number.
We added
correct.
JMC
Exactly.
Cellars, which I think is very cool. And Earl and Linda Alt retired again from Cedar Mountain, but they made a phenomenal port. But Earl and Linda were chemists at the laboratory and made a living through chemistry, and they were making some great wine as well. So wish them very well. But as you said, we're adding and some are retiring. So I think it's a great thing. But my question was, are we getting are we covering our costs? And the answer is yes. Great,
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilmember Branning.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a quick comment on 510, 511. Basically for both of them, echoing what the mayor just said, absolutely fabulous. All the work that the Livermore Valley Wine Heritage District is doing. I wanted to highlight particularly Livermore Downtown Inc. We have several members here today. First of all, I believe we in the past have gotten these as actually presentations to the council for future years. If our agenda isn't too packed, I did like getting the information. I thought it was good for the community to hear. As a member of the Downtown Inc. board, I get to see all of the work they're doing. One, I do think they put together a fabulous annual report, just graphically, really easy to read, easy to get through, get all the highlights. And two, I do think it's nice highlighting the amount of work that a relatively small investment on the city's part is really getting us in return. I look forward to, years to come as Livermore Downtown Inc. continues to grow and expand and serve our downtown businesses. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to them and a great thanks for all the work they're doing.
And the Witches' Night Out was another raging success and continued to do great things. And you had the trick or treat in the downtown, another fun event for the kids. So I certainly appreciate all the great work that continues. And of course, our farmers markets are just that's where the community comes together. So certainly appreciate the great work that you continue to do down there as well.
Shall I move?
Any other
Breaking
comments?
things up.
Okay, Ed, do you want to say anything on what we're doing downtown?
Public comment. Yeah.
The first speaker is David McWiggin, followed by Greg Scott, followed by Alan Marling.
He's gone.
Mr. McWiggin's not here anymore.
Pardon me?
Do you see Mr. McWiggin?
No, he left. How do you get it?
So the next speaker is Greg Scott.
Greg Scott on 5.3. I was homeless for 6 years, 9 months in Livermore from October 1st, 2015 to late June of 2022. I know what it's like not to have a place to go to. It's not about more and more money. It's how you allocate it. And you put a lot of money into very few people. Put $20 million in your Citadel at Vineyard 2.0. You're housing on a permanent basis 17 people with 2 resident managers. You have temporary housing for 20. You've got another 100 to 150 out there unsheltered, I can tell you that. And people go by the point in time count. Let me tell you, I was homeless. You don't want to be counted. It can be bad news if the police find you. I played cat and mouse with the police for years. I was darn good at it, luckily. It can be bad news if the police find you. You've got block by block taking people's things that are donated to them, like their sleeping bags they need to sleep in warmly at night, or in their tents. You've got block by block over here on North Livermore Avenue taking their stuff. That's not very helpful. You've also got people that are quite hungry. You've got Open Heart Kitchen in Vineyard 2.0 that feeds people. It's great from Monday through Friday. They only feed residents on weekends. The people out there have no place to eat on weekends. The only place they could go to is Discovery Church out there on Las Positas, close to Vasco Road, but it's a long ways to go for most of the homeless. And so they don't make it out there. They're very hungry. You know, it was reported to me, one woman recently, she was eating out of a dumpster. And it was in the heat of it all at a retail grocery outlet thing. And wow, she was eating rotted food. The rotted food had maggots in it. I just, you know, it's so desperate out there. And to hear this stuff here, it's just, wow. You put a lot, it's sure you can ask for more and more money all the time, but it's how you allocate the money. And I'm not saying where the money, you construed my comments one time where I didn't say where the money came from. I said how you allocated it. And I was here at the meeting, you allocated over 90% of it to Vineyard 2.0. I think of Ross Perot in that thing where he said the giant sucking sound. Over 90% of the money goes to, on that deal you voted for, goes to Vineyard 2.0, and less than 10% of it went to emergency shelter and city serve. It comes to the question I said 7 years ago, where do you expect people to go? What do you expect them to do? You can't get all the people into, what are the 20 that can't get into Vineyard 2.0, where are they supposed to go? You know, so, well, I don't know. It's not hate, it's a matter of life and death. Tell me how many people have died as a reference. Isn't life and death the most important here? And more important than the money? I saw too many people die out there from homelessness.
The next speaker is Alan Marling, followed by Ruby Lopez Villarreal.
Mayor and City Council, this is regarding 5.3. Please do vote yes on increasing compensation for holding public office. The large time commitment and low pay may be a barrier of entry to serving on City Council. This is a serious issue if it's excluding most people of various walks of life. The City Council should reflect Livermore's diversity. The trouble is, a 5% increase every few years can hardly even keep up with inflation and won't by itself address this problem. If possible, I ask the council to pass a law to allow them to increase wages by a greater amount. The next is regarding 5.4 to 5.6. Please do vote yes on these measures. Expenditure on active transportation is a critical investment for Livermore's future. To prevent car congestion and lack of parking, we will need to facilitate more people walking and riding their bikes. This will help us overcome some hard limits faced by car infrastructure, which is even more expensive to be built and maintained. While huge trucks tear up roads, bike paths will last much longer and allow for more people to move and at greater health. Increased active transportation will make Livermore a better city. I was pleased to hear that we earned platinum on the Beacon Spotlight Award. We need to do so well in this category that they invent a new category and award us diamond next time. Thank you.
The next speaker is Ruby Lopez Villarreal.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and staff. I'm Ruby Lopez Villarreal, Executive Director of Livermore Downtown, Inc. I want to take a moment to express our heartfelt gratitude to the City of Livermore for your invaluable support. This partnership has been essential in enabling us, LDI, Livermore Downtown, Inc., to deliver vital services to our downtown business community. We could not have accomplished our goals and objectives without your collaboration and your support. In the past year, Livermore Downtown, Inc. has witnessed a vibrant resurgence marked by heightened community engagement, the launch of new businesses, and a series of successful events and initiatives. We've proudly served as advocates for our small businesses, bridging communication among stakeholders and offering crucial resources and training. As an esteemed member of both the National and California Main Street programs, we are dedicated to driving economic development and enriching the downtown experience, paving the way for Livermore's enhanced presence on a national scale. It has truly been a year of growth, teamwork, and renewed vitality for our downtown, and we're very grateful again for your support. Thanks to the city's support, we have effectively disseminated important information regarding several initiatives, including construction projects, outdoor dining policies, sustainability initiatives, and community safety efforts, to name a few. This collaboration has allowed us to create a more inviting atmosphere for all. Of course, I write something up here. I prepare to come up here and speak, but I have to go a little bit off the cuff as well. A little bit about my background. I come from a small business family. My family had a business for over 35 years, a store and a restaurant. And one of the reasons why I took this position is because we are doing something so important. We are providing support to families that otherwise wouldn't have that. When I say families, I mean the small businesses. We see people here like Flocka, whose kids did their homework in the back storage room the same way that I did growing up. And the support that we are able to give because of your support is so critical. I think if my family had this support when they were growing up, they would have been able to do so much more with their business. So I'm very thankful to all of you for that. Also, thank you to LPD. You guys are amazing, and everything that we do, boots on the ground, they really care for our businesses. They care for the people. They are very connected there with everybody. Every time we need anything, the homeless liaison department is also, my father was also homeless. And I wish that there was people who were as compassionate and caring as they were when helping to provide services. All right, getting back onto the script. Looking ahead, we're enthusiastic about deepening this vital partnership. We're thrilled for what Livermore Downtown Inc. has coming down the pipeline in partnership with the city of Livermore. Together, we can elevate Livermore as a leader in tourism, hospitality, innovation, and business. We firmly believe that thriving downtown is essential for overall well-being of our community, and we're dedicated to continuing to keep the heart of Livermore strong so the entire community can thrive. So thank you again, once again, for your support, and have a good evening. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Okay, I'm going to close the public comment period. I just want to address some of the comments that were made by Mr. Scott. And, again, homelessness is a regional issue, and the city of Livermore does not have the resources to deal with a regional issue. This comes down to the county and the state, and it is an absolute tragedy. But you keep saying that you know people that have died on the streets. So do I. I can name a number of people that have died on our streets. And what I think is really tragic is that the people that I can name had family here. They had family living here in Livermore, and the family could not help them. And they died homeless in Livermore because the family could not help them. And if the family, which has legal ability to step in, what chance does a municipal bureaucracy have? We don't. This has to be a regional effort because the city just can't do it alone. And as I said, if the families can't lift these people up, then a municipal bureaucracy has no chance at all. So thank you for your compassion. Thank you for your concern. We share that concern. We're just limited to what we can do. And this has to be something that's a cooperative effort to lift everybody up. So thank you for your comments and thank you for your passion. Yes. Vice Mayor Carling.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank Mr. Marling for his observation about 5.4 to 5.6. As many of you probably know, I'm an avid cyclist as well, and I appreciate the effort that city staff has taken into trying to achieve these funds for the city to increase our bike paths and other to help other people move around more safely on bicycles and walking in our community. So again, I thank staff for that and thank Mr. Marling for noticing that addition to our great community. Thanks.
Okay, any other comments on the consent calendar? Okay, we'll start off with I need a motion for 5.1 because Councilmember Barrientos was absent, so we can move.
I'll
that
move
first.
5.1.
Motion by Councilmember Kick, seconded by Branning. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
And Councilmember Barrientos abstains. I guess good enough. Okay, we got that all down. Okay, so 5.2 to 5.12. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Councilmember Kick.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Mayor Carling, who gets under the wire. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. And now moving on to 6.1, public hearing, a hearing to consider the Housing and Human Services needs and the Housing and Human Services grant priorities.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, this is your City Manager, Mariana Marasheva. Item 6.1 is going to be presented by Amy Walker, Management Analyst in the Community Development Department. Thank you. Ms. Walker?
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Amy Walker, and I'm the Human Services Management Analyst in the Housing and Human Services Division. The item before you tonight is a public hearing for fiscal years 2025 through 2027's Housing and Human Services Grant Program priorities. For needs outreach this year and for the formation of the grant priorities for the next 2 fiscal years, staff engaged Livermore residents at community events to hear the needs in our town. We considered the findings from the 2024 Eastern Alameda County Human Services Needs Outreach, and nonprofit providers provided valuable input through the Homeless Roundtable meetings. The Homeless Roundtable formed 4 working groups to focus on the following priorities: universal basic income, mental health and substance use treatment services, collaboration and outreach efforts, and alternatives to affordable housing. The focus areas identified by the Homeless Roundtable working groups are consistent with the proposed grant priorities for fiscal year 2025 through 2027. Starting in fiscal year 2025, the Housing and Human Services grants will be implementing a 2-year funding cycle. In addition, staff has been working with the City of Dublin and City of Pleasanton to create a joint Tri-Valley grant application. Grant applicants will be able to submit 1 application for all 3 cities that they are requesting funding from. Also, 2 developments were approved by City Council and have committed $1.8 million to the Social Opportunity Endowment Fund, which will be available to use for the upcoming grant cycle to help fund public service programs. Staff is exploring a new source of state funding from Senator Steve Glazer, who has launched an accessory dwelling unit program. The program offers rebates to homeowners up to $15,000 for qualifying ADU projects to incentivize the creation of more ADUs. As an entitlement recipient for the Community Development Block Grant, the city is required to have a citizen participation plan that describes the policies and procedures for public involvement in the grant process. Prior to each grant cycle, Livermore Citizen Participation Plan requires us to do community outreach and a public hearing regarding the pressing housing and human services needs in the community. On September 10th, 2024, the Human Services Commission considered the outreach results and recommended a set of 4 funding priorities for the next cycle. If adopted, these grant priorities will inform how the commission evaluates and scores grant applications submitted. The 4 priorities presented tonight are housing services, homeless services, healthcare services, and service provision awareness and navigation, as shown here on the slides and detailed in your staff report. Tonight, the Human Services Commission and staff are recommending that City Council adopt a resolution approving the Housing and Human Services grant priorities for fiscal year 2025 through 2027. Thank you.
This is a lot of stuff that you're doing. You just sort of just flew through that. Okay, well, again, thank you for the great work that you're doing. Let's open the public hearing on that.
We have 1 speaker, Greg Scott.
Rick Scott, first of all, I made a mistake. I wasn't commenting on 5.3, I was commenting on 5.8, my mistake. I didn't really understand from a procedural basis why I couldn't comment on 3.2 when somebody could give a silent protest on 3.1, but some of the procedure I don't understand, but here I am commenting on 6.1. First of all, if your logic is that because families here, and it is surprising how many of the homeless come from Livermore families. If your logic is that because the families can't deal with it, how's the government of Livermore going to deal with it? I suggest you get out of the homeless business. You'd save a lot of money. It's the money. It's just crazy how it's done. It's the same mode. Look at the state of California. The 5 previous fiscal years, state of California spent $24 billion. They can't even account for that money by state audit. 9 agencies administer 30 programs. Only 2 of those programs could account for their money by state audit. So as the state auditor said, how do you measure the effectiveness of the program if you don't know, you can't relate it to the money they spend? It's the homeless industrial games. It's just ridiculous. It's like the spoil system. What did President Lincoln say about the spoil system? Quote, "There's not enough teats for the piglets," unquote. It's ridiculous, all the money. It's how you're allocating the money. I said this 7 years ago. There's homeless people out there. They're desperate. They just need a place to go to sleep. How is it helping for block by block to take their stuff? It's not helping to take their sleeping bags. There's people out there that are very hungry, especially on the weekends. They're desperate. They need a little bit of resource. They don't need $20 million of the Citadel. They need a very little resource. We don't seem to get that because the magnanimity seems to be measured in money. How about the statistic of lives? You want to name, I can talk about the dead homeless. Wow, JR, that was September before, the year before September 15th. How many years did JR spend out in the bushes of East Avenue? Wow. What did he do for sanitation? Wow. The wisdom's in the flies, isn't it? The flies land on the feces and have the etiquette and the good graces not to land on an upper middle class resident out on East Avenue. Of course, third world, baby. It lacks common sense. It just lacks common sense. It needs something simple. What we're doing now, yay for Cornerstone doing safe parking for women and women with children. Yay for that. It's women who have a car with registration. There's women out there that don't have the money for registration. What are they supposed to do? What are the men supposed to do that would like a safe place to park? I played that game for years. It's just heinous. It's just heinous. And it would take so little resource, but it's amalgamating these amazing amount of resources like the state of California is doing, and it's just ridiculous. But there's no listening. I got it.
That concludes public comment.
Okay, thank you. Bringing it back, I'm going to close the public comment period, bring it back to the council. Most pleasure of the council. Councilmember Kick.
If staff can help me with dates, we approved the social endowment fund this year, like months ago. Am I correct?
Councilmember Kick, through the mayor, this is your city manager, Mariana Marashova. The social opportunity endowment concept has been in existence for quite some time, but as you know, the money has run out. So earlier this year, the council approved the ability for staff to negotiate with developers to replenish that fund. So those are the two.
Yes, that was it's the allowing developers to give us $1.8 million just happened. So in just a couple months from us thinking there's a problem, how do we fix it? Maybe we should allow developers to put money there instead of where they buy out, opt out through other funds. 1.8 million is not quite double, but almost exactly double of what we spent this past presentation. And we collected that within a couple months. So I'm just really excited to see how this can support the programs that we need. It's not a perfect solution because not everyone's going to build every year at the same rate, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. And so it's really rare in government that you see something go from concept to approval to action within such a short period of time. So I just wanted to commend the staff for their creative thinking and for getting this all together. So congratulations.
Councilmember Brandon.
So again, thank you for all your hard work. I already said that earlier, but I want to ask a couple questions just to check. So I don't know about the state or the feds for how they track their money, but for us in the Human Services Department, do we follow up with our service providers to see what services they provided and how they've been spending the money?
Yes, so they do have to provide quarterly reports to me. That tracks how many people they served and what program, what they have any issues and what they've been working on. And then annually I have to report to HUD, on any of the federal funded programs, the same basic information of how many people they served, what programs they did, and what the results were.
Awesome. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that we're keeping our money accountable and we're making sure to follow it, which I know you guys do a wonderful job of. I wanted to follow up on another comment about,
Councilmember Brandon, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Can you speak into the microphone?
sorry.
Thank you.
I want to comment about another comment that came up from the speaker about the allocation of money. Again, when we're talking about the federal funds, which make up a large portion of the funding we get, what percentage is it that we can allocate to things like sanitation or food?
15%.
And just something that, you know, the audience and the public should know is with the remaining 85%, I do think we do a really good job of being creative with how we apply that, but it is housing first funds for the remaining 85%. That means it's very limited in what we can do, but I want to give you and all the staff in the Human Services Department a lot of credit for coming up with creative solutions on ways we can use that money to find housing, to really transition people out of homelessness as fast as we can. It's not easy to do. It's a lot of work, but we are doing, I think, a lot in the city, and I think you deserve a lot of credit for everything you've been doing. I will say, you know, me and Greg have agreed about this for 10 years now, however long I've known him, which is really, I do agree with the model that, you know, if we could, moving to a sanitation first model where we really are providing people with, you know, a bathroom, a shower, clothes, you know, a place to wash their clothes, places for storage for their things, you know, childcare, pet care, things like that. If we could transition over to that model, I do think it would serve the population better in the short term, at least, just because of the outrageous cost of housing in the area. But the way that the funding comes in, do we have the flexibility to move our funding entirely to focus that way?
No.
No. So unfortunately, you know, there are restrictions on how we use the funding. I think you're doing an excellent job with it. I think you're doing incredible work, dollar for dollar. I think we get great returns on our investments. But there are a lot of hurdles and a lot of challenges. And so I appreciate all the work you do. I just want to make sure some of that information was out there.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Carling?
Thanks for the report. Just to be clear, what we're doing tonight is just approving the recommended priorities, which I think are just fine. I think the last time you were here, I think I challenged all of us to think out of the box a little bit, which I assume is why UBI is on that list. But I didn't see UBI in one of the priorities. Is it somewhere hidden in there?
It is not, but it can be categorized under the access to promote programs that promote and support economic stability.
Okay,
So
well,
even though it's not specific word for word, that is, and that was a new addition that the Human Services Commission added this year.
okay, well, I appreciate that. I do think that it's worth, as you, and I'm not going to be on this council when when this comes back to this body in the new year. And I would just encourage you and others to think a little bit outside the box. I think that two items that really caught my eye were number one, the universal basic income, and number four, alternatives to affordable housing, which I think are I mean, the two in the middle are important, but I think those, in my mind, are things that we've supported pretty regularly in the past. And I think it's worth thinking outside the box and when we judge for these new when the applications come in for this new funding. And that's what I would encourage you to do, is is think about that and how we could take a different approach to some of these challenges that the folks in our community face in homelessness and lack of health care and mental health services and so on. So again, I think it's a fine list, but I'd like to for you to put your thinking hats on again and think about what you could do that might be a little different than what we've done in the past to see if it could make a big difference. So thanks very much.
And I just have a follow-up question on what Carling said. So like I mentioned, the endowment fund, that's for us to decide what to do with. We do have guardrails. We're not just giving out bubbles or something. Like there's guardrails, but it's far less restrictive than the 15%. So that opens our doors very widely because the funds were gone. We needed to replenish them. 1.8 million that was given isn't necessarily for a year because we need it to last. So it seems like when I said it's twice the amount of money, it seems like a lot of money, but we can't just spend it all in 1 year. So I think I agree with Carling in the outside of the box thinking, the temporary shelter programs that I'm sure you've all seen. We probably just saw them in Long Beach if they were advertising there. They've been, but we got to keep that money coming in. So.
Okay, Councilor Briantos, did you have I thought your hand go up there? Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, with that, I will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Branning, seconded by Councilmember Kick. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Thank you. Passes unanimously. Okay, moving on to, thank you. Moving on to 7.1. This is the resolution accepting the Altamont Landfill Open Space Committee's recommendation for open space acquisition and for a grant to allow the outreach program to educate ranchers about permanent conservation easements.
Honorable Mayor Marchand and members of the City Council, this is once again your City Manager, Mariana Marasheva, and item 7.1 is going to be presented by Jennifer Ackerman, Associate Planner in the Community Development Department. Thank you.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I am Jennifer Ackerman, Associate Planner. This item for your review is a funding concurrence for the expenditure of $56,000 from the Altamont Landfill Open Space account. The requested funds will be used to conduct 2 recorded conservation easement education workshops in Sunol and Livermore for ranchers and rural landowners. The purpose of the workshop is to generate future grant proposals to the Altamont Landfill Open Space Committee by educating ranchers and other rural landowners about the value of placing perpetual conservation easements on their properties. 30,000 of the 56,000 will be used to establish a revolving fund to help landowners cover upfront appraisal costs associated with assessing the value of a conservation easement. Such appraisals can cost up to $10,000 and can serve as a barrier for a landowner pursuing a conservation easement. The revolving fund will help remove that barrier. The role of the Alameda County Resources Conservation District is to serve as the fiscal and project lead. They are responsible for contract coordination with the City of Livermore and will directly manage the revolving fund and will support workshop planning and execution. The California Rangeland Trust will serve as the subject experts in the workshops and webinar. They will operate as a sub-awardee subcontractor under the Conservation District. They will evaluate prospective conservation easement deals and the viability of requests to leverage the appraisal fund. The City of Livermore will serve as the Altamont Landfill Open Space Committee's administrative agent. The city will transfer the funding awarded from the open space account to the Conservation District for the consulting services on an invoice payment basis, and will transfer the one-time transmittal of funds to the Conservation District for the revolving fund. Staff recommends the City Council adopt a resolution to find the Altamont Landfill Open Space Committee's recommendation for the expenditure of $56,000 is consistent with the Livermore General Plan, and determine that the expenditure is not a project under CEQA. Available for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Okay, do we have public comment on this?
No public comments been received.
Okay, then I'm going to close the public comment, bring it back to the council. Any questions? No? Okay, do we have a motion? Motion made by Councilmember Barrientos.
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Kick. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, now we can move on to 7.2 and 7.3. Mr. City Attorney, can we hear these both simultaneously? Pass them with a single motion?
Yes, sir. I think that's what staff has prepared for you this evening.
Okay, very good. So is there, oh, we have Ms. Olson is going to be presenting.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. As you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, Tina Olson is going to present both items 7.2 and 7.3 in one presentation. So we're just waiting for the slides to come up. Thank you.
Whoops, sorry. It's like a light green instead of a dark green. My name is Tina Olson. I'm your Administrative Services Director, and I'm going to present the City Manager and City Attorney Contract Amendments item this evening. Oh, you're doing it. Sorry. Oopsie. Sorry about that. So the city, as you know, you were here, the City Council had conducted a performance evaluation on October 14th for the City Manager. At that time, the City Council directed the evaluation subcommittee to negotiate salary and benefits with the City Manager. What came out of that is a 2.5% COLA, but of course that was included in the City Manager's current contract, and it's consistent with a Livermore Management Group, or LMG, and department heads. Also included is a 5% merit increase and $210 per pay period in increased deferred compensation contribution. We noted down here, part of the evaluation subcommittee's consideration was the sort of relative disadvantage the City Manager has associated with the reduced pension benefit by being in a employee. Next slide. And then the City Attorney's contract. Also, City Council conducted a performance evaluation of the City Attorney on October 14th, and also directed the evaluation subcommittee to negotiate the salary and benefits with the City Attorney. And the outcome of that is a 2.5% COLA, also consistent with LMG and department heads. And then $77 per pay period increased deferred compensation contribution. And those combined maintains a total compensation for the City Attorney within 5% of comparable cities. Next slide. The effective date of both contracts is November 18th. And then next slide. So in summary, staff recommends council adopt resolutions approving the amendments to the City Manager and City Attorney's contract. And also for item 5.13, adopt a resolution amending the city's salary plan to reflect salary increases for the City Manager, City Attorney, and the executive team, excluding the police chief. He received his in July. And retitling the systems administrator classification to network engineer. Next slide. And that concludes my presentation.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any public comment?
Yes, sir, we do. Greg Scott.
Greg Scott. I just want to make a point here that it'd be great if it was very transparent. I know CalPERS, the California Public Employees Retirement System, has some sort of ceiling on the retirement to a certain amount of salary. In which case, when you go above that ceiling, the municipality or the government entity pays the rest of that pension. It'd be nice to see a list if the municipality of Livermore is paying above the CalPERS limit. It'd be great to see a clear, transparent listing of what the payments are above the CalPERS limit. As you know, it's not news to you, we got a little problem with CalPERS. It's the largest public employee retirement system in the country, $500 billion, over $500 billion in assets, but it has around 200 billion, going on $200 billion in unfunded liabilities. You're aware of that because you're looking at this group, and I've been in the meeting, and you're looking at this group in Newport Beach deal with retirement. I'm concerned here how, this is a growing problem with CalPERS, and CalPERS is actually accentuating some of the problems. And one of the problems is their investment in asset management companies, which macroeconomically, we're in the asset management era. We've been that way since the great financial crisis. And they've taken over groups like BlackRock. They have $10 trillion in assets, Vanguard, $9.3 trillion in assets, and State Street. And then we have the private equity firms, like I mentioned, Blackstone, there's Elliott Management, Apollo Management, and these groups that really control our economic system, and they control our politics. We control all our elections. For example, Kamala Harris's chief economic advisor is Brian Deese from BlackRock, and she's got a number of advisors from BlackRock. So these people control the lobbying and deal. So we have CalPERS, which is desperate for returns, and it's gone from 8% investment in asset management outfits and private equity outfits to 13% management. It's a risky deal, but they're desperate for returns. So it'd be interesting how the money is, if the money that passed the maximum of CalPERS is being spent, if it is at all from Livermore. Thank you.
That concludes public comment.
Okay, we're going to close the public comment period. And I must confess, I have been in CalPERS for over 40 years, and I never knew of any cap. Ms. Olson, are you familiar with a cap?
There is a cap, PEPRA, actually, and the city
Okay.
managers under PEPRA. And the cap is about 182,000 is the cap for pensionable, the amount that they can calculate the pension on.
Okay.
And the city does not make up that difference. We don't for any of our PEPRA employees.
The city does not make up that
Mm-mm.
difference.
It sure does not.
So in the interest of full transparency, we're not making up any difference.
No, we are
Okay.
not.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mm.
Okay, there being no further comment, any questions from the council? Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Okay, motion made by Councilmember Kick,
Second,
seconded by Councilmember Branning.
can I, just to clarify, it's for 7.2, 7.3, and 5.13?
We'll do a separate resolution we'll bring 5.13 back. Just to
7.2 and
keep it all
7.3.
clean.
Okay.
Yeah. So 7.17, 7.2, 7.3. Okay. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Now, 5.13, which is the City of Livermore salary plan to reflect the increases that we just voted upon.
I'll move approval.
Is there any public comment?
No, sir.
Okay, closing the public comment period. Bringing it back to the council. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval.
Councilmember Kick motion. Councilmember Barrientos makes the second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you very much. Bringing it back, council committee reports and matters initiated. Let's start on this side. Councilmember Barrientos. We saw your report.
Report, right? I just want to comment, two comments. One from my wife. She says, "Thank you for the card that you sent about our dog."
Certainly.
We had a dog 17 and a half years old, and my wife was distraught when we had to put her down. That's 3 out of 4 now. We got one left. And the other one is I attended two events at the Bankhead, and I think people should appreciate more what we have here at the Bankhead. I saw the Canadian brass and then what American authors, and they're both excellent. And chill out.
Yeah, you bet.
To the Bankhead and go to more of the events that we have there. I don't know myself.
All right. Councilmember Brandon.
All right. Cool. Okay. All right. So a couple of items to report out. On October 15th, I went to the LDI board meeting with exciting news from that. We're working on getting the crosswalk between across First at Maple for between Penny White and Story Coffee and the businesses there. Yeah. So surprise news for everyone. I went to the League of California Cities from October 16th to the 18th and was the voting representative there. And earlier went to the Laptop Projects and Services Committee meeting. So that's my update. It has been a great week. I was gone all of last week for conferences. Learned a lot of great things and just really looking forward to bringing back and working with staff on some of the things that we got at the league.
In between this meeting and the last, Livermore Pride celebrated their 5th annual celebration in Livermore. Another great thing about the Bankhead is all of the cultural arts ceremonies that and activities that take place outside of the Bankhead. So very much appreciate them for their support and the city support in maintaining those important events. Also, there's a moon tree planting ceremony on Wednesday. We had a seed that went to the moon, and now it is a tree, and it was being nursed at Alden Lane Nursery. And there was a naming contest at the elementary schools. And Luna is the new name of the tree, and my daughter did submit that name along with some other children, but she doesn't have to know that. She can think it was just her idea until we get there on Wednesday and realize there's multiple other kids. And so that'll be very cool that we have. There's not many. It's a very small handful of moon trees that we have something extra special here in Livermore. So if you like trees and the moon, you should come to that. And then next Tuesday is a pretty important day. So I hope everyone participates in voting for who will be sitting in Carling and I's seat. So just please remember to turn in your ballot over in front of City Hall, or hurry up and get it in the mail. And vote all the way down, not just at the top. We're on one of the last pages, the council. So make sure to participate. And that's all I got. Thank you.
All right, very good. Vice Mayor Carling.
Thank you. Like Councilmember Branding, I participated in the league meeting as well. And I went to a couple of interesting sessions that I'd like, actually have a couple of matters for the council to consider and for staff to undertake if they so agree. One was on electric vehicles. Laguna Beach has a master plan to incorporate EVs into their fleet, and I think they have a goal of, I don't know, 130 something out of 185 vehicles in their fleet over the next few years. And I would like staff to consider looking into that, or look into what Laguna Beach has implemented and see if that's something that Livermore could consider as well. I think it would fit nicely into our climate action plan and would continue to demonstrate to the residents that the city is committed to addressing climate change. So I'm asking if the council agrees that we'd ask staff to look into what Laguna Beach has been doing or maybe even other communities, and see if that's something that would fit here. If I could get,
So it comes back to the 5 most terrifying words for a city manager to hear from the member of the council is, I've got a great idea.
she already knows about this, so I
Yeah.
did.
Sure.
She and I talked about this, so I followed what the protocol is.
Good
Okay.
rule.
And the other panel I went to actually was representatives from Irvine, our city manager's former employer, on e-bikes and e-scooters. And there's a lot of confusion about what the rules of the road are, so to speak, on e-bikes and e-scooters. And again, that city is working with their school district to ensure that the students have the proper training and wearing the proper PPE when commuting to school. And again, I'd like to see if, again, if my colleagues up here would agree to ask the staff to explore current regulations with our school district and determine if any further regulations or enforcements are needed to keep our kids safe. Great, thank you. Appreciate that. And again, city manager and I discussed this. I have a couple of other things I want to point out, and that's sort of under the rubric of what this city has to offer people. On Saturday, my wife and I attended a gathering at Asbury Methodist Church celebrating Palestinian culture. Mr. Scott was there as well, and I don't know if anybody else in the audience was there, but there were a couple of hundred people from all over the Bay Area there, and it was really quite interesting for us to be there and participate in this. One speaker from Palestine stated that whether you're Jewish, Christian, or Muslim, we are all human. And I think Livermore should be proud that we can celebrate diversity in a safe and secure manner. And I, again, congratulate our community for being able to host such a gathering. On the 22nd, the mayor and I were at Sandia National Labs celebrating their 75th anniversary. And I was pleased to present the proclamation from the city and greet many friends and colleagues that I hadn't seen since I retired about 10 years ago from the laboratory. But then again, that was a fun event. They opened up a time capsule that was buried 25 years ago. And I asked a couple of my colleagues if they remembered this, and I couldn't find anybody that remembered. And I was there, so
Did it on the fly.
I guess, I don't know. On the 23rd, I attended a board meeting at Stop Waste, and you probably have heard me talk about Stop Waste before. But I think it's important for the community to know that Stop Waste is certainly an Alameda County organization sponsored, out of fees from the landfill. But they work on behalf of all the cities within this county. And one of the things that they did over the last legislative period was to sponsor AB 2346, which was recently signed by the governor. So you might ask, well, what in the heck is AB 2346? What it does is it makes it easier for jurisdictions to meet SB 1383. Now, you may not know what SB 1383 is either, but SB 1383 was signed during the Brown administration to get organics out of the landfill. And so all of the cities within the state are now required to buy compost. And the intent of the legislature was to create a compost industry, if you will. The difficulty is that Alameda County is already way ahead of most of the other counties in the state in terms of creating compost, getting organics out of the landfill, and so on. And what 2346, it gives some additional levers to cities that, like Livermore and other cities within the county, other opportunities for meeting 1383. And like I said, it was sponsored. Stop Waste was the sort of the people behind it. It was sponsored by Representative Lee from the South Bay, and again, recently signed by the governor. So that's AB 2346. The last thing I want to just mention is it was my pleasure on the 24th to award the certificates for those completing the most recent Key to the City program. I think this is the first one we've had since 2020 or thereabouts. It's been a while. So it was wonderful to see that reinstated, and 24 very eager people were there to to receive their certificates, and I would note the people that haven't taken advantage of Key to the City. There's another one in the spring. So please watch for the announcement of that and consider participating in that. And like my colleague to the left, please vote next week. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Vice Mayor. So in regards to the Asbury Methodist film presentation that they did, I continue to be very proud of our community. I received over 4,500 emails demanding that I somehow stop the screening of this film. And most of us up here, I think I probably received most of them, but 4,500 emails asking me to, no, they were from all over the country. I mean, I think there were a couple here, and I did respond to the ones that were local. But 4,500 emails asking me to turn my back on the vow that I made, that all of us made, that we heard tonight. People vowing to uphold the state of the United States, the Constitution of the United States, and the Constitution of the State of California, without purpose of evasion and everything else. But we're bound by our First Amendment that allows freedom of expression, and the Asbury Methodist Church held that screening. It was very controversial, but we live in a community where we don't run away and we don't try to ban thought that we don't agree with. That we believe that people should have free expression and be able to express themselves. So thank you for being at that event. So on the 19th, I worked with a bunch of students from Livermore High School and several other adults, and we went out and picked up litter up around Portola and First Street and North Mines Road. And when we left, the community was a lot cleaner than it was before we had gotten there. I was also at the Sandia National Laboratory and would certainly appreciate the tremendous work that Sandia does, not only for the nation, but for our community. I demoed the inside of a house with Vice Mayor Carling, along with a bunch of other volunteers from Sandia National Laboratories. We actually rebuilt the inside of the house. We didn't just leave it that way, but it was to provide housing for a veteran and his family. So very proud of the work that Sandia does, both for the nation and for our community. There were the trunk or treat. I got it. The staff just did a phenomenal job at the trunk or treat. Guesstimates are there were 4,500 to 5,000 children in costume at this event. The staff really pulled out all the stops on that. The enthusiasm, every kid just had a great time. And there were dinosaurs there, there were dragons there, pirates, skeletons. It was just ballerinas, unicorns. It was a wonderful event. ACTC approved its countywide transportation plan policy blueprint, but highlighting they are managing right now $750 million worth of traffic and road improvements. So $750 million, that's remarkable. And finally, as was mentioned, Shepherd's Gate had its 40th anniversary of service to our community. And this really rose up because there were a handful of people that recognized there was a tremendous need for a shelter for women and children who are victims of domestic abuse. And in the last 40 years, they have assisted over 15,000 women and children and at Shepherd's Gate. And as I'm very proud of, in the 5 cities of the Tri-Valley, the shelters for the disadvantaged, the homeless, and the abused are all in Livermore. But the folks at Shepherd's Gate understood that this was a problem everywhere, and that they said that we in this community will step up to help these victims of domestic violence. So very proud of the work that they do and continue to do. And I look forward to them serving our community for another 40 years and 40 after that. So with that, we lost a friend a while back. So there was the Lions Club in Quetzaltenango, Guatemala, which you may remember. That name sounds familiar. That is our sister city in Guatemala. And it was Lion Antonio Balcarce, who was the one that started the sister city organization with the city of Livermore, with the Lions Club here. And Lion President Ben Barrientos had asked that we adjourn the meeting in Lion Antonio Balcarce's memory and honor. So with that, I'm going to adjourn the meeting with that. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.